sent out notes already. Oh, he has sent out notes already in regards to sending out plays for comments on. So I encourage you, when you get those emails, I know last year there was myself and 3 other people that we looked at those and we kind of got together and talked about them because I had some comments, they had some comments, and then we kind of corporately, so to speak, answered his video. But I encourage you all to do that. There will be opportunities as the year progresses. Brett will be sending, I think he sent 15 last year. I might be wrong, but anyway. So as we go into this, I'm going to be basically giving just general overviews. There'll be some things I'll be pausing on to make some specific comments because I think they need to be made. But again, this is not pointing a finger at anybody. The main gist of this is to get everybody on the same page. There shouldn't be a difference from one night to the next of a coach seeing a set of officials, whether it be 2 or 3 man, and seeing different mechanics. We should all be on the same page. So.
Just so you know, I'm going to keep this view up just because it allows me to continue to see if anyone needs to be admitted into the meeting. So can you, is this okay using this view?
Sure.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
I do still have, oh gosh. Are you able to pull up that video or do you already have it pulled up?
Yep. Give me 1 second here. Bear with me. I had it pulled up. But
did you get the note on when to stop it? Because I wanted to make
I did. Yep. I've got that.
Does everybody have that black screen, that little black box, or is that just me?
That might have just been me, Tom. So just give me 1 second while I'm pulling the video up, and then I will.
Any hunters out there today? Did anybody get their buck today?
Sunday.
Parker,
cool.
State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
You're the man.
You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Scott's going to be top left of your screen. Look at the reverse angle. You see the slip right there, yeah. Wow.
Could you pause it just for a quick second?
Sure thing.
So the reason I wanted to show this is that the biggest thing here, us as officials, we need to make sure we keep our head on a swivel. We need to make sure that we're aware of our surroundings all the time because you just never know. And there's a couple plays here I'm going to make comments on before, but obviously you've already seen the first one. This particular one here, obviously, he did the right thing. I mean, he's not looking ahead. He's got his shoulder turned, but obviously probably the floor slippery via timeouts or via people being on the floor, moisture on the floor. We've all been there and seen that, right? Humidity in the gym, especially on nights where it's super warm and you've got water on the floor. They're trying to keep it clean. It's slippery. So go ahead, Tom.
This time of year, the officials have worked a lot of games well. And it's one thing we saw last year. You see at the left of your screen with the reverse angle. You see the slip right there, yeah. Wow.
Long at the pass. Boozer, strong move in the lane and had enough to get it to go. Fist pumps and almost punched Dan Crawford, who was making the foul call.
Crawford got a big smile on his face. He's taking that all right.
That's Follow Will's buddy, old Danny Crawford.
We had a nice championship game today.
I know you did. Pretty funny stuff. You see Booze with the spin move against Dirk.
He wristed that in.
Yeah,
oh, wow. He did get him.
Tom, can you pause it for a second? So the funniest thing about this one, hopefully the guy was okay, but did you see how he pointed and then pointed the other way for the direction? So he was still officiating even though he's on his backside. Go ahead, Tom.
That's Michael Smith who ends up going down. Look out.
Yeah, hopefully he's going to be okay. 4 free throw attempts. So much more engaged. Draws the foul.
Okay.
And say there's no continuation. So the Celtics will take it out. Lydia Fresh having a rough start. He's gotten knocked down once. See what Rondo's doing, using guys as a shield, and then 68%.
All right, go ahead and stop it. So the only thing I can say on this one is to kind of give it a similarity to what we might face. I would not advise taking this action if we, prior to him bouncing the ball and shooting, the light bulb went on and said, oh crap, he's shooting an unmerited free throw. So I wouldn't do what this guy's going to do here.
Set. Whoa. Devon Kirkland. That might be a little bit of an overreaction on the part of the official. I think he went for the block. I don't know if I've ever seen this. Whoa! It looks like it's a guy from Foot Locker who just ran on the floor.
All right. So I want you to look at this one and say, do you think he did it on purpose? And you'll get it when they run it the second time.
Second time here in this first quarter that Oklahoma City forced to call a timeout. This one at the 22nd for Ryan.
Russell Westbrook just tossed the ball towards the end because the timeout was called, and he hit the official on the baseline, which was Trey Maddox, number 73. It did not look intentional because
We backed that up, Tom. I don't know if they got a chance to see it.
Westbrook had the line because the timeout was called, and he hit the official on the baseline, which was Trey Maddox, number 73. It did not
Need to go back a little
look
farther.
intentional because as soon as the impact was,
At the 22nd for Ryan.
oh wow.
Foot Locker who just ran.
This first quarter that Oklahoma City forced to call a timeout. This one at the 22nd for Ryan.
Oh, wow. Russell Westbrook just tossed the ball towards the end line because the timeout was called, and he hit
All right, that was it. Basically what happened was he hit the official right upside the head with the ball. So I don't know if he did it on purpose or not. Anyway, just wanted to show that to make sure that, you know, the importance of keeping your head on a swivel and making sure we're aware of our surroundings at all times. So. Can you run this in PowerPoint or you're not able to?
I'm going to try to, Tom. Last time I tried.
You don't have to. That's okay.
No, I think we're good. No, I think we're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So the desired outcome of the mechanics training obviously is consistency. And keep going. So what's the purpose of using signals in officiating basketball? Certainly the primary purpose: to communicate needed information to partners, players, coaches, timers, scorers, and spectators. It's how we communicate. It's what's happening or what has happened. Communication can be verbal or nonverbal. Signals are required by the book. So each time the whistle is sounded, think about this. Every single time you sound that whistle, there's an accompanying signal. And the one.
Are you still there, Tom? Tom, you still there? Did we lose Tom Behmlander? Did we lose Tom Behmlander?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will, hopefully Tom can at least hear this. And I don't know, maybe if it's a log out and log back in or what the situation is, but luckily Tom and I had discussed this PowerPoint earlier today. So let me get back into the screen share and I will kind of pick up until Tom returns. Okay, so each time there's a whistle. So the difference between positioning mechanics and signaling mechanics. Positioning mechanics obviously are dependent on the location of the ball and the location of the players, whereas signaling mechanics are dependent on one thing, and that's using approved Federation high school mechanics. Okay, so obviously we want to use proper signaling mechanics in every game. And I talked about that back when the meeting started, just because we as officials, as an officials association, there's going to be a microscope on us, as there typically is, to make sure that we're using proper mechanics along the way. Also please remember that you, along with your partner, are to be 100% in control and 100% accurate in using the correct signaling mechanics. Okay. Doesn't look like Tom's rejoined us yet, so I'll keep going here. Approved signals are to be presented in a professional manner. Presentation of signals is to be timely, sharp, crisp, and thorough. And I'm going to give Tom an opportunity to come back when he rejoins us here. Again, I apologize. I'm going to check every once in a while to see if he's with us. But the key to remember here is that this is how we communicate with the table, but it's also how we communicate with coaches and with players. If players, players, coaches, and spectators. So if we're not giving sharp signals, if we're not being crisp, if we're not being thorough, it is very hard for everyone else in the gym to be on the same page with us. And we'll end up answering, we'll end up facing a lot more questions than what we can really answer. Signals should be given in a manner which is calm and unhurried, obviously. You don't want to be over emphatic. I think we've all seen officials on, whether it be on TV or in person, that really do a number on overselling their signals. We don't want to do that. And again, just a reminder that you only want to use approved federation signals. Now, if there's anyone on the call that's new or maybe has only gotten a year in, just a reminder that you can find the correct mechanics in both the mechanics guide that's on the MHSAA website, as well as the MHSAA rule book as well. So the approved signals are divided into 5 categories, obviously starting and stopping the clock. Now, just to hang on starting and stopping the clock, remember that, and again, this is for newer officials, if you have a violation, your stop the clock signal is arm over your head with an open hand. If you have a foul, again, it's arm over your head with a closed fist. So that is, and realistically, that open hand versus closed fist, that is a way to communicate with your partners more than anyone else, because everyone else in the gym is going to be solely focused on the fact that there was a whistle, your arm is in the air, and you've stopped the clock. Very few people are going to know that there is a difference between stopping the clock with an open hand and stopping the clock with a closed fist. That part of your signaling is more so meant to communicate to other officials as well as coaches who are probably a little bit more knowledgeable about that. Tom has rejoined us, so I'm going to see if once Tom gets on the call here, I'll keep sharing here for the minute. We also use the signals to give information. Beyond that, we're looking at shooting, scoring signals, violation signals, and foul signals. Okay, Tom, are you with us? Do you want to kind of pick up here where I have left off?
My apologies. Our internet in our entire house just went out, so we just got it back. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me okay?
Good to pick up from this point?
Yep, I am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll go to the next slide then.
Okay. So the first category of signals we want to look at is starting and stopping the clock. So to the first point of contention of the meeting, and that is with the particular signal that we're going to talk about here. Again, remember, please, that this is not pointing a finger at anybody. What we're trying to do is understand what the requirement is and drive consistency across. So when I read the definition, I've got a couple comments. So obviously you can see here, the official stands with one arm raised, straight vertical position with an open palm. Extended arm is moved straight down out in a chopping motion using a closed fist to be used anytime the clock is to be started. So let's pause that back a second and say, I'm raising my hand as well. Okay, I have been guilty of putting the hand up, open hand, and then a 90-degree angle, and then closing the fist without actually bringing that down as they're stating here. So again, to be consistent with mechanics and to be consistent with the manual, what we're asking everyone to do is just as they state here: arm straight up, come down in a chopping motion with the closed fist so that your arm is parallel to the ground as you come down. So next slide, please. Starting the clock for a timeout. After we stop the clock, we report the timeout, point and say start the clock, point and verbalize. See sometimes in this one here, where after we report that, timeout white, 60-second by the coach, and then we see that that hand moving back and forth rather than the hand extended with the finger point saying and verbalizing start the clock. So next one, please. So it is permissible to use a circular, wanted to get that other bullet point, but that's fine. It's permissible for the official to use a circular motion with extended finger instead of a simple point. So you can point saying start the clock, you can point with the circular motion as you're saying start the clock, either one is acceptable. Again, stopping the clock, we've kind of talked about that, arm fully raised, palms up. Not too much here. So the only note here I wanted to clarify is there is no signal for an official's timeout, such as patting the chest or the top of the head. Unlike football, where when we use two hands to pat the chest, that is considered an official's timeout. Here it is not. We simply stop the clock. Again, preceded by the stop the clock signal, jump held ball. So this is another one here. We need to get better probably at, and that is immediately we go to the pile and we have the hands up, signaling the jump ball prior to stopping the clock. So we want to make sure we stop the clock first, followed by the arm straight out, chest level with fist clenched and thumbs pointed upward and moving in an upward motion. Stop the clock for a foul. Now, the only difference is we have a clenched fist for a foul. We have an open fist for a violation. So here we have a clenched fist. So then we have some mechanics that involve giving out information. Directional signal. Stop the clock. Extend straight out at shoulder height, palm open, and point in the direction plays to proceed. Now, one comment I'd like to make here, and I had a slide at the end saying, what's your nemesis signal? So here's where I would interject. This used to be mine. I used to kind of get the cart before the horse. So what I do now is, as I stop that clock and the ball goes out of bounds, as soon as I blow that whistle, my hand goes up, I say the direction it's going. So I'll say blue, I'll say white. That gives my brain a chance to refocus, kind of, slow down, and then obviously point the right way. It's embarrassing as an official if we point the wrong way, then we've got a double tweet, triple tweet, however we do it, and then we have to correct something. I think that's easily correctable by, as soon as the ball goes out of bounds, blow the whistle, state the color verbally, and this is just what I do. You don't have to state the color verbally in that split second, and that gives your mind a chance to reset, and then hopefully you're accurate with the way you point. So not too much on this one. Designated spot for a throw-in. Pretty simple. Also indicates the location of a violation where there is no proof signal, such as, a free throw missing the rim, basket interference, or goaltending. We would point, obviously, to the basket. Next one, please. May move along the end line, typically after a timeout. We would allow them to do that. Visible count. Here's another one here I'd like to spend a few minutes on. You notice how the arm is extended from the chest area, and you notice it's not up in the air at a 45-degree angle. It's not using two fingers. It's an open palm. All right. Typically, what I do is I close fist as I come in, open the palm as I go out. You can keep the palm open in and out. But what we don't want to see is the college mechanic of the 45-degree angle with the two fingers pointed out as you're counting. The mechanics that we are supposed to be using are as the picture that you see here. And the best thing here for this one, I would probably say is, if you're going to do mirror mechanics, which I absolutely recommend you do, take your signaling book, go through all of them, and really look at this one, because you really see a lot of interesting counts. You'll see the arm kind of up in the air, down in the air. And even more important than the actual count itself, we want to make sure our timing's accurate. So what I've done is take your watch, take your phone. You know, a second goes by a lot faster than what you think. And in the days of video and the days of replay, obviously, and with scoreboards, you know, if you've got a count and you're at 5 and 15 seconds have gone by, it's going to be difficult to explain to the coach why you didn't have a 10-second violation and or a 5-second violation. So I would strongly encourage you, especially on this one here, to practice that one, because this one is probably the most difficult one, especially, you know, you're not always walking. You may be jogging. Certainly you're a step behind the player as you're making that count. If you're coming from backcourt to front court, and sometimes it's difficult. You know, the players are fast. But I would certainly advocate this one here to certainly practice in front of the mirror. Next one, please. This one here too, not going to spend too much time. Obviously, you can see the arms extended. It comes in halfway, beckoning the sub in. This does not include a wave as to waving them in. It doesn't include the signal being over your head. You really want to have that at eye level. So enough said on that one there. "60-second timeout, not much here. Literally, obviously, official will stand facing toward the table, bringing the hands together, fingertips with palms facing the chest, and you fully extend the arms. So not too much there. 30-second timeout. The only thing on this one here, you'll see in the second note that he'll pull up here just a second here, if you can go to the next bullet point there. The signal does not include using thumbs to touch the shoulders. So specifically on this one here, elbows and wrists bent so that the fingertips of each hand touch the corresponding shoulders. It's not thumbs, it's fingers. Next one, please. Closely guarded. I think we do a really good job on this one here. So I want to open up a comment to the group here. How do you all handle situations where, you know, so we're not actually putting the hands out, dropping them, putting the hands out, dropping them? What do you all do to manage that? I mean, if you've got somebody that's dribbling in, dribbling out, you know, pausing, yeah, there might be a, you know, closely guarded count, and then it goes away, then it comes back again. How do you all manage that? And this is an open-ended question for conversation.
So most of you are on mute. I don't know if you can unmute yourself or if I have to unmute you. So maybe what we'll do, Tom, is, oh, it looks like people can unmute themselves. So does anyone have thoughts?
Well, you just
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead. What you just do is you don't have to hang out there the whole time. You got your arms out and you put them, and then you put them down, and if you got to put them out again, it can get very, very annoying. And the visible count is useful for them. If they don't see you do a visible count, then even if you don't put your arms out, then you're not counting.
Okay. I mean, there's no wrong answer. I just wanted to open that up for conversation, so no worries.
Yeah, Tom.
Yep, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pat, you're here. Yeah, I go along with what Alan says. If we use that signal to show that he's not closely guarded, then I go back to the physical count to show, you know, when he comes within the 6 foot, then I show the physical count. And when he goes beyond that 6 foot, I show that he's not closely guarded, and then I drop it.
Okay, thank you. So the one remaining, not too much here. And I think, at least in our games that I work in, all the games I've watched, everybody does a good job at this. Minute remaining, hand goes up in the air and it's mirrored by everybody else so that we understand there's a minute left. End of period. Again, this one here is different. This one here shows that I've been doing and I will be changing. Typically, we go hands across the chest and go out, signaling similar to like a no good signal, so to speak. But here the hands are over the head in a waving type motion. One thing they point out here on a successful goal, instead of using the end of period, obviously we're going to use the successful basket. So not too much here. Next one, please. Now we'll move into the mechanics, some of them here for shooting and scoring. Again, here, no score. Pretty self-explanatory, not much to talk about here. Goal awarded, again, not too much here. Kind of banging it home, so to speak. Oh. Okay, we'll go on. Number of points scored using the same arm to indicate the goal is counted. On a foul or successful last second goal attempt, the official will extend his arm horizontally at the shoulder level with the number of extended fingers to indicate how many points were scored. Pretty self-explanatory there. 3-point signal, you can see the signal there. Arms primarily at about a 45-degree angle, followed by the signal if the 3-point attempt is made. Pretty simple. So the signal made by the 3-point try will be mirrored by the non-ruling trail official in a 2-person crew, or center or trail official in a 3-person crew. The lead official may communicate to the trail official the attempt in a fast break situation, but must not signal and mirror the successful try. In a 2-person crew, when the trail signals a successful 3-point attempt, the lead must not mirror the signal. When the lead signals a successful 3-point attempt, the trail must mirror the signal. The successful 3-point signal is given squarely toward the basket in which the ball is just passed in order to keep the covering officials from turning away from the ensuing activity and ahead to the other end too early. So the reason why I read all that is to make a comment on this last sentence. We tend to want to, okay, yep, 3 points good, I'm going the other way. Or, yep, I see the 3-pointer, it's good, I'm going, I signal yes, I look at the table, when in fact we want to stay, excuse me, with our body positioned towards the basket, signaling that 3-point prior to turning from the activity and going the other way too early. Not much here. Bonus free throws, just telling them how many free throws we have. Pretty simple. Again, number of free throws, same as the other one. So you can go ahead, Tom. So let's get into violations. Delayed dead ball, obviously, for free throw violations. The official will not sound a whistle if or unless the try is unsuccessful. If the try is successful, the arm is dropped to a relaxed position and play continues. Pretty simple. Next one, please. Traveling, obviously, stop the clock, give our traveling signal. This one here, be relaxed when you do this. You don't have to make it 7 or 8 or 9 revolutions. 2 or 3 is customary. Generally, if you have the whistle, it's going to be pretty evident if you're going to have a traveling call that it's a traveling. 2 or 3 times around is fine. Now understand also with this one here, with the mechanics of that, make sure we point the other way where the ball's going, and before we turn, make sure we turn our shoulder and signal where the ball's going to be put out of play, or put where the ball will be put in play next prior to leaving that position. Legal dribble, same thing, stop the clock, motion the signal, point to where the ball is going to be put out in play next, and then go to your next position. Same thing with the palm and carrying.
Tom, I think we lost you again. You were breaking up.
I I can't win for losing tonight. Is it better now? Oh my God.
You were fine for me, Tom, so maybe it's someone else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can hear you okay, Sam.
Oh, okay. It's been one of those days.
You're fine with me.
I do have a funny story, but I'll wait till the end to tell it. And my day started out crappy, and you'll understand that once I tell you the story. All right, I think we've covered palming and carrying. The next one, please. Three seconds. Again, preceded by the stop the clock. And I'm not gonna, I mean, everybody understands what 3 seconds is and the signal for that, so. Next one, please. 5 second. This one here, and I think the next one's 10 seconds. Make sure we have that hand extended so that our face isn't covered. A lot of times, you know, if we're in the back court or if we're far enough away from the table, we tend to put our hand up in the air above our head. Let's make sure we're square when we have this call. And if while we're communicating this, just have the hand out extended so everybody can see your face. Same thing with a 10-second call. You can see it's basically at eye level and everybody can see and see what you're communicating rather than having the hands over the head. Next one, please. Again, pretty simple here. Excessive swinging of an arm or an elbow. Kicking the ball, pretty simple. So understand with the violations, obviously, the one common theme there is we're stopping the clock, stopping the clock with an open hand. Open hand violation, closed fist foul, okay? So for the newer officials here, if you can grasp that concept and master that and not be confused by that, you will be far ahead of the game. So let's take a look at some fouls. Legal use of hands, or what we call contact. Extending one arm in front of the torso with a clenched fist. The other arm is chopped across. Next one, please. Hand check. Official will extend one arm straight in front of the body at chest level with the palm open. The other hand is used to grasp at the top of the wrist. Pretty simple. Excuse me. Holding. One call that mirrors in football. Same call. Same mechanic, same way. Blocking, preceded by the stop clock signal again. Both arms bent inwards and hands placed on the hips. And you'll see by the next bullet, it is also acceptable to use closed fist. One time, preferably, not 5 or 6 or 7. Armbar, again, pretty simple. Elbows bent at a 90-degree angle. Go ahead. Pushing. Hands out in front, followed by, moving the hands forward, signaling that call or signaling that foul. Next one. Player and/or team control.
Tom, I'm just gonna stop here. Just a reminder to everyone. Well, 2 reminders. Number 1, please remember that the signal for team control has changed this year. As Tom mentioned here, player and team control gets the same signal now. The fist extended out in front of your upper torso has disappeared and has been replaced on team control fouls and has been replaced by the signal that we were using for player control. So just a heads up on that. Also a reminder, we've had a few people that have joined us in the past probably half hour. If you haven't already, name first and last name in the chat box so that I can keep track of everyone that attended. And now back to your regularly scheduled host.
Thanks, Tom. Intentional foul, again, preceded by a stop the clock signal. Official will bring both arms above his head with fist closed and crossed at the wrist. Double foul. You can see there, both hands extended, closed fist. Oop, I think we missed one. There you go. And the technical foul. So I think that's all from the mechanics standpoint. And I don't know if, yeah, so again, we did mention some common signal mistakes. One being, for me at least, obviously the call out of bounds, hand goes up. I say one thing, my arms do the other. So I have made it a point to give that brain of mine a split second pause, verbalize the color, and then go ahead and point. Yeah, I gave you a different presentation, Tom. You must not have got it in time, but I think I covered this one here for me. What about folks? What about folks on the line? I mean, you can be transparent if you want. You don't have to. I mean, probably some people are better at some mechanics than others, perhaps. Maybe some people have a little more difficult time with mechanics than others. It's okay. There's not a right or wrong answer to it, but anybody else have issues? I wouldn't, pardon me. Anybody else have things that they're working on this year for mechanics to get better on?
Hey, Tom, Gary Meredith here. While you're looking at that, raising your hand for the jump ball, that
Yep.
used to be something I used to not do. And especially for new people, I think the reason we need to stop the clock first, that gives everybody time to look. If you have a double whistle, gives you time to look at your partner. If you both have your hands in the air, you can kind of get together before you signal anything. Make sure you talk about it. But if one guy goes up with a hand, the other guy goes up with the thumbs up right away and not stop the clock, then you got issues.
Sure. Has anybody had double fouls last year?
Very few, but on occasion, yes.
So Pat, now that you mentioned that,
Actually, I have on several occasions. One was a big high varsity game in the first 5 minutes of the game.
so when you have those, do you tend to maybe take a little more time to gather your bearings so that when you go to the table, you've had a couple seconds to kind of collect all your thoughts before you try to regurgitate all that information and try to be accurate?
Yes, and what I do is the few times that I had the double foul, I would go to my partner and inform them of what I had, talk to him for just, a few seconds. It seems
Sure.
for like forever, but you talk to him for a few seconds, tell him what you have, and that way you're running it through your mind again before you go to the table and explain what you do have.
Yep, that's a
Right.
great point.
Right.
Okay,
The other
okay.
thing you're doing is you're double running through your brain, but you know the right number with the right color that you're calling. And you're on those numbers specifically.
So generally, if we have a double foul, it's going to be on a contested matchup or something going on. So what I will do is, if I have a double foul, my first thing is I'm stepping in and we're probably going to have to separate the players. So that gives me an opportunity to kind of stop, mentally focus, look at both people, talk at both people, communicate to my partners, and then go to the table. So I've kind of had a chance to kind of reprocess the whole sequence again.
Right.
So that I'm just not, double foul, bada, and I'm turning around and going to the table. There's probably going to be some more things you do prior to going to the table to report those.
Yes.
Tom, Bruce Moss had a good point in the chat box. He brought up, where exactly will the ball be put back in play after my call? Give a spot on everything. Don't assume others know. I think it's, and I'm guilty of this as anyone, giving a traveling signal, pointing, and just start walking in that direction without pointing on the floor where the ball is to be taken out. So I think that's a really good point, Bruce, that not only are we responsible for making the call and the mechanic along with the call, but also signaling to our partners where the ball goes into play when we resume.
Yeah, and it's absolutely right. That was a great point, Bruce. So, my philosophy when I call a violation is stop the clock, signal the violation, point the direction, point where the ball is going to be put out of play, then I go to my next spot. For fouls, if it's a non-shooting foul, stop the clock, signal the infraction, point where the ball is going to be out of play, and then go to. If, if it's a shooting foul, obviously there's a few more dynamics because we want to make sure we get the shooter. We want to make sure we signal the amount of free throws. And, but, again, great point. Make sure at all times we know where the ball, if it's going to be put in play next out of bounds, and there's no free throws, well, we know where that's going to be put in play. Anybody else?
Hey, Tom, Kevin Krinsky with a question. We've all been in the lead and the ball goes flying out of bounds in front of us. The ball wasn't in our primary. How as an association would we like to handle it? Do we still want to kind of look to that trail and hope we get a quick signal and then we signal that? Or do we want to step out and say, help? What are your thoughts?
So that's a great question. So my immediate one-word response when I'm not sure of an out-of-bounds call like that, and I know somebody may have more information, I tweet the whistle and I yell, help.
Okay.
Or something. You can do whatever you need to do on that. I wouldn't say, hey, I didn't see that. Can you help me?
Right.
I think saying the word help says to your partner, okay, there's times, that ball scoots around all the time, especially when we're coming down closer to the play now. We're going to be probably trailing that play a lot. That wouldn't maybe be the case with what we're talking about here, but sometimes there's long passes that we don't get to, and maybe you're right. Maybe your partner has had an unobstructed view and can help you with that. Now, if you don't get an immediate reaction, I mean, my thing is I wait for a response momentarily, but if I don't get that right away, then I'm going to a help ball. I mean, we don't have those very often, but I would rather not sit and haw over it and create doubt in the coach's minds to say, well, they don't know what it is. Now they're going to make something up. If we're quick, if we're decisive and we go the other way, the biggest thing is on that, let's get the ball put back in play as soon as we can, because you know what? They're going to forget about
it.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, I have a question, Dave Volk. And I see this happen all the time. When you get an over and back, people always put the ball at half court, and it's not at half court. It's where the over and back, where they grab the ball or the ball goes out of bounds. How do you signal that?
Well, if I am the trail and the ball is going into the backcourt,
I'm signal the over and back, but how do you signal to put the ball in play? Do you point or?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all I want to know.
Great question. Anybody else?
Dennis Kraft, Frankenmuth, an old official who grew up with bird dogging. And I still tend to do that if I've got a cluster of players in the paint and trying to figure out who the foul is called on. It takes away any doubt as to who had the foul. How are you guys handling that?
So the bird dog is an improved mechanic. It is optional. You can use that still if you would like. So if there are situations like that, Dennis, where you need to make it evident to everybody, and for your clarity of sake, and you think you need to use that, by all means, use it if it's going to help you.
I kind of personally miss doing it all the time because I love watching the emotional reaction of the player.
And again, Dennis, you can. It's not widely used, but if you feel in a situation where you need to, by all means, if it's going to help you for clarity and it's going to help the situation, by all means, use it. All righty, we've got a couple more slides here. So I just want to go over a few things. Ways to improve your signal mechanics. Spend time in front of the mirror. We're all getting older. Well, pardon me, I'm getting older. All right. Maybe the hand doesn't go as straight as it once did. Maybe certain parts or certain things don't want to do what you tell them to do in a timely fashion anymore. It's important to get in front of the mirror to at least get to, as best as you can, the desired mechanic. There are issues or there are times where physical limitations may not allow you to do that. That's okay, but you still can do your best to try to do your best. So absolutely spend time. My comment before about the 10-second count from the backcourt to the front court. That's probably one of the most misdone mechanics. And I'm not saying the mechanic is wrong. I'm saying the time element there. It's either way too fast or it's either way too slow. So, you know, I was a music major in college, so I've kind of got a built-in metronome in my head. That doesn't mean I still goof up, but one of my things I do right away is first possible time I have that I'm the trail coming up and I'm doing my 10-second count. I look at the clock. I want to gauge where I'm at because I want to develop that muscle memory right there as soon as I possibly can. Okay, this is what it's going to feel like. Boom, I know. So the next time I do it, you know, you're not going to have that luxury all the time, but when you do, take advantage of that and look at the clock. I mean, you're going to be trailing the ball handler. If there's no pressure and he's just bringing the ball up, he could be walking the ball up. Okay, well, then you're kind of walking behind him a step. And if you can glance up or behind her, if you can glance up at the clock and kind of get a gauge where you're at, I think it will help you immensely. Next one. Yeah, and this is a great one. What you think you look like may be different than what you actually look like. And no truth in that because video does not lie. You know, get feedback from your partners. You know, we've got some newer officials here in the association. Be very careful when you give feedback, be constructive because we want to keep the officials. But, you know, if there's something that needs to be said, there's always a good way to say it. We're not critiquing, we're giving constructive feedback. And we as veterans, and there's a lot of veterans on this meeting, you know, perhaps, you know, 75, 80% veterans here. Give constructive feedback if they ask. And but here's the other thing. All right. Monkey see, monkey do. If you're going to give them feedback, make sure you're doing the approved thing so that you're not saying one thing and doing another. Because they are watching you. They're watching us. Next one. Another great one. Huddle's a great resource for film. I know I watched a ton of football film. Seemed like every day there was like video after video after video put on Huddle, and you get a chance to watch it. And what you think you look like may be different. It certainly is when you think like, hey, I thought and this is a football analogy, I thought I really squared off on that yard line to come in to get a spot. Oh my gosh, I turned it, you know, it wasn't anything at all what I thought I did. And same thing perhaps with maybe some of your calls and some of your mechanics at the table, you know, how you do things. So get game film when you can and look at it. You know, we're our own worst critics, but if we see ourselves that can improve, I think that's awesome. And then practice. So last year was a unique year. I think we got a lot of practice because a lot of us were taxed to do probably many more games than what we were used to. And I think if we were all honest, probably by the end of the season, we were tired. And when you get tired, you tend to get lazy. And when you get lazy, you tend not to have as good as mechanics as probably what you should have. So I hope that won't be the case this year. Hopefully we'll all be fresh at the end of the year. So any questions at all on mechanics? Tom, how are we doing on time?
Sorry, I was on mute myself. So right now we're a little past 6:55. So I actually think we're doing pretty decent on time. I did say 50-50 split, but I mean,
Okay.
Realistically, I got kind of long-winded at the beginning of the presentation. So
No, that doesn't ever happen with you, does it, Tom?
so I will say, if anyone does have any questions about the presentation content specifically, go ahead and ask. And while you're asking your question of Tom, I'm going to pull up the PDF version of the rules test. So questions for Tom on the presentation?
Tom, do all schools have Huddle?
I don't have that answer. I think they have the capability, whether or not they choose to have it, I don't know.
Okay, how do we find that out?
Typically, what I will do is if I'm the R, when I send the email to the coach, or I'm sorry, to the AD, I will include that in my kind of welcome, so to speak, email and say, hey, we would like a game film. And I just kind of ask those questions. Do they have it? Do they have it available? And then I also remind them of that when I get to the venue. I even go a step farther when I'm talking to the coaches on pregame. I will also reiterate that again. You know, I talked to your AD, you have the availability to have a game on Huddle. If you could help us out, you know, really like to watch our game film for training purposes. So just, you know, help us out and you know, get that game on Huddle for us. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So I don't know, I didn't mention this before, but in there's two two ways to find the actual mechanics in the rules book. It's on page 80 and 81, and obviously it's on the MHSA website. In the sports specific basketball content, you will see the manual, the mechanics manual. So as we transition here into the test, I think Tom set out the email, and Tom, you may want to chime in after I'm done here, but the
Yeah,
intent of what we're trying to accomplish today here with the test is what questions, there's a couple of goofy ones in here. You have to really be careful how you read it. What questions are you all having, if any, difficulty with, so we could maybe talk about different rule references, and or other types of references in the not the mechanics book, the other one, the case book, that would help you better understand the question and what the answers would be. So Tom, if you want to add.
Yeah, I was just gonna to piggyback on what Tom said. I don't want anyone to think after reading my email that I'm trying to be a hard ass, because that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm looking at is I don't want us to get in the habit of just running through the test and going, okay, number 1, the answer is C. Number 2, the answer is B. Number 3, the answer is A. What I'm really looking to do here is get input from everyone, but we're not going to give out any answers. We're going to, I want everyone to be responsible for their own answers when they take the exam. And that's really what I'm looking for. If guys want to get together outside of this meeting and talk about actual answers from the test and results that you've had from actually taking the test, that's one thing. I'm obviously not going to tell you what to do on your own time. But what I'd like to focus this discussion on is, number 1, identifying a particular question on the exam that you're having difficulty with. And number 2, feedback from the group about information that you can find in the rules book, or maybe, they pick out, they give you a couple rule references here. Maybe there's like an obscure rule reference or something in the case book that you found for that particular question that helps answer it much more effectively. But again, I don't want us to just say the answer to number 1 is A, or definitively say the answer to number 2 is C. Okay, so I guess we can get started by, is there any one particular question that an official on the call here has had difficulty answering or understanding or finding how the rule reference is relevant?
Dave Volk here. I got one. Question number 4. It says outside the 3-point arc. It says outside the 3-point arc in her front court. Do you have to be outside the 3-point arc? You can be inside the 3-point arc, can't you? I mean, that's kind of a tricky question, isn't it there?
Well, so I think from my perspective, I think this is one of those times where the whoever, if it's a committee or if it's Brent or Mark or whoever puts the test together, is really just trying to make sure that you look at each individual aspect of the question and understand whether it's relevant or not to the actual question, or if it affects the question's answer. In my opinion, this is one of those questions where I think they're throwing in some information to maybe throw you off the scent a little bit. But Tom, what's your feeling on this?
So this basically boils down to one thing. And again, I want to get back to your question here in a second, but I wanted to add one comment too, is that, the MHSA has really given us a great opportunity in that we can take this test twice. So whatever you get on it the first time, who cares? So I went and did every single one. I looked at all the rules, I took the test, and I got 3 wrong. And it's like, crap. And I said, well, I could have, settled for that. But then I got together with a couple of folks that also took it. And I said, we sat down and we went through some things. And then, thanks to John Flukes, John and I kind of worked together on this. We took it again after we kind of talked about it, got in the rule book, and we got them all right. So use that resource. It's very simple. All the rules, references, and whatnot that you need are right there. You just have to go into the book and look at it. So basically, getting back to your question, here's what I boil down this question to. All right. I'm going to kind of phrase it such that I'm not giving you the answer, but here's what I thought about it. You have to determine whether or not a shot is being attempted or if they're passing the ball. And if you can differentiate those two based on the information you have right here in those rule references, you will be able to answer that question correctly. That's all I would say on that one there.
Okay.
You agree, Tom?
Tom, we did have a question come in. JJ asked us to cover question 22.
Okay.
So question 22, alternating possession throw-in does not result when, and again, we don't want to go through answers. JJ, I don't know if you have the ability to say what was giving you issues or if you want to chat it, but
can we look at that question? Can you make that screen bigger?
I can certainly try.
I don't have all the test stuff in front of me. I've got certain things, but not everything.
Yeah.
Can you see that okay?
Yep, now I can.
Okay.
And maybe it's just because I overanalyzed it, but I guess getting in the rule book and looking at all of them, my only thought is that it's just I overanalyzed the fact because those are all point right out of the rule book. So I don't know if the answer is because it's a stupid answer and I overthought it, or there is one that's questionable, the simultaneous free throw violation. If you have another free throw, then you don't necessarily automatically go to the alternating possession. So I'm not sure if I'm overthinking this too much, or it's one of those where you look at the rule, or you look at it, you look it up, and all the answers are right. So was a little confused as what they're trying to get to there.
All I'll say, JJ, is you overthought it. How's that?
That's what I was afraid of. Thank you.
So I didn't tell you the answer, but I gave you.
No, you didn't, but yep.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was going to say, any other questions that kind of threw some people for a loop?
Hey, Tom, 25, have you ever had a foul? It says a situation in which two or more teammates commit a personal foul at the same time. You ever have that?
I have that on 23, right?
25.
Oh, it's 23 on mine. Oh, okay. Is that the one where it says situation in which?
In which it says a situation in which two or more teammates commit a personal foul on the same opponent. Has anybody ever had that happen? I mean,
No. But it does clearly state in 41911, it does give the information to.
well, I know what the answer is. I'm just
Oh, yeah,
saying.
yeah, okay.
Okay. I just want to know if anybody's ever had that happen.
I think we always judge that probably one always preceded the other. So we called, if we called the first one. But there, I guess, if they both whack at the same time, and I guess it could be, but no, I have not. No.
That'd be a hard one to sell the coach.
That was just heavily discussed on the Federation of Basketball Officials Facebook page with the same result. No, it's not going to get called that way.
Right. That's a good point, Bruce. So how about number 27? I had to really think about that one for a while.
Tom, just to make sure you're talking about 27 for on the screen here when there's an unequal number of players.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
So again, gosh, I really can't disclose information without giving you the answer. But you just got to think about this. When there is an unequal number of players, that's going to mean something in the event of advantage, disadvantage at the end result. So just keep that in mind. So that one kind of threw me for a little bit until I kind of thought about it. I says, okay, now it makes sense. You don't see that one very often because I have not had any situations in my career of having an on-court fight. So maybe this year I'm probably going to have 10. I don't know. How about anybody else?
Nine with correctable errors.
You said 29? Ah,
So I guess from my perspective, right, the number one thing that we want to do here is, how do we define judgment? And I think everyone on this call can probably define judgment adequately. But the thing to remember is that there's multiple points throughout a game where an official needs to make a judgment call. And whether it's, we always say time score situation. What does a time score situation tell us? And there's going to be times where time score situation is irrelevant because there are, the facts of the matter are very clear and straightforward. But we have to, I think we all have to have a better understanding that a judgment is something that isn't necessarily clearly defined by the rule book, or if it is defined by the rule book, maybe the application of that particular rule in that particular situation needs some critical thinking on the official's part. So Tom, what do you have to say about this particular question?
Well, if you look at the rule reference, it kind of explains it. But think of what correctable errors involve. What do they generally involve? So if you know that, you can certainly eliminate one answer right off the bat.
The foul is charged.
So if you eliminate one, you've really eliminated two. I'm not going to go any farther. So
anyone else? I just checked the chat. And besides Bruce Moss giving some comical insight as to whether any teacher on this meeting would ever construct a multiple choice question like this.
I didn't like it either. I thought, I'll be honest with you, I thought this was a really stupid question.
Any other questions that anyone wants to discuss? Again, I appreciate the fact that the MHSAA has decided to include the rule references for the exam. I know most of us on this call have been officiating for at least 2 or 3 years, but this used to be, at least for me, a multi-day task. And it was because, you're in the rule book for a couple of hours and your eyes start going cross and you just don't want to do it anymore. So from that standpoint, I do very much appreciate the fact that the MHSAA has decided to include the rule references. Now, what hopefully that doesn't do is it doesn't keep people from reading the rules, from getting into the casebook. I know that I personally, and this is probably going to make me sound like a huge officiating nerd, but I read the casebook every year, cover to cover. And it's a large part of in that is because not that I think those situations are going to present themselves repeatedly, but there's always at least 1 or 2 situations from the casebook that come up during the course of the sports calendar. So that's just something that I tend to do, but I would encourage everyone to, as I mentioned I think it was the Standish meeting, at least learn the definitions that are provided to you by the rule book. Understand what the key words for basketball officiating are and how they are defined by the National Federation. I think once we understand how to define these terms, it will make officiating, or at least our explanation to coaches, a lot easier. It will make it easier for us to communicate, and it will make it easier for coaches to understand. Number two, it will also provide more consistency across the association so that we're all using the same terminology.
Yep. You know, I look back at, it was my question 5 here, but it's the question that says, the coach asks, why wasn't that a charge? And it follows that by saying, which of the following is by rule the only legitimate response an official should give? And there's certain verbiage on there that if you say that specific, whether it isn't a block or whether it isn't a charge or is or isn't, doesn't matter. You know, there's either one or two answers you're going to be giving them. And if we have that in the bank right away to say to them, just think if we do that with all these other ones here as we're studying these, you know, how much better of an official that will give us, make us, not only that, but how much more confidence that the coaches will have in us as officials. So again, I like what Tom said. I like the rule references because I think the MHSA is driving consistency. There's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts. These are the references for them. So we really can't make things up and go by what we think it should be. They're already giving us what it is. So it behooves us to go look at it. I mean, they've really given us 50 to 75% of the puzzle. We just need to figure out, that last quarter of it to say, okay, I've got this, this, and this. Now what's the fourth piece? And the fourth piece is the answer, right? So I think it's, there's some questions on here that are challenging, and it makes you look at all the references, plus it might spur your memory to go someplace else and find something additional. And a part of this here too, of what we're talking about is, the other question was, as Tom asked, if there's any other information people have, and that would be, on any of these questions, did you find other rule references or anything in the casebook that would support the answer that we didn't have listed on these as reference points? And that would be good also, because it gives us more information to look at to further our knowledge on it. So, and I don't know if anybody has anything or not, but I don't know, Tom, if you mentioned that, but if anybody does have anything else on questions that, hey, this question had this, this, and this, but I found this, this, and this, and that really helped me, nail down the answers and understand the question better. So.
Yeah, good point. Any other questions in particular that anyone wants to, or that cross some people up? Again, this year I felt like there were a couple questions and we kind of touched base on them that were what I consider to be head scratchers. Those questions where you're just wondering who's writing this and what's going through their mind when they're writing it. But it sounds like everyone's got a pretty good handle on the exam, which I appreciate. So one last call, anyone?
Yeah, Tom, I got one. Number 11, it just says, and I know the answer, but I just thought I'd go over it because of technology. It says use of electronic devices on a bench is permitted in all instances except for, so, they have iPads and all that other type of stuff on the bench these days. So I just want to make people aware of, that they can have stuff like that on their bench. So, and I know what the answer is, but some people are worried, that they can't have that stuff these days.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dave. I feel like pretty much every varsity coach now hires an assistant coach that is specifically well-versed in technology, only to keep stats on an iPad during the game. They literally do nothing else. I never see their face because their head is always in the iPad. So the one thing that, we want to be careful of, and this is a great point, Dave, is the interaction between the table and the bench and this going back and forth in communicating with the table and this, that, and the other, we want to make sure that we have a good firm grasp on that, because one of our key roles is administering the game from clock management, from bench management, from conflict management, from table management, so I would remind officials, whoever the R is on that particular game, and whether it's 2-person or 3-person, the R should always be having a conversation with the table prior to the game starting about what that crew's expectations are. You know, a big thing that is a pet peeve of mine is when we don't get horns for subs, and not so much because I don't see the subs at the table and I need a horn to remind me that subs are at the table. I just don't like players running on and off the floor without some type of indication that we're going to have players coming in and going off the floor. Now, again, you know, we hear the horn and we give a whistle, and yeah, could we give the whistle? Sure. But that horn is very loud and it encompasses the entire gym. So that's one of the things that I always cover with the table is anytime you have a sub, be sure to give us that horn, especially in some of these gyms. You know, I think of like the Tawas gym where it could get very easy to lose a potential sub. So it's on that clock operator to make sure that they're giving us that horn before subs are let into the game. So table management is very key.
Hey, Tom, can I add something?
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to be transparent. I screwed something up last year, and it's in regards to reporting a foul. Make sure you have eyes on the home book and they give you a verbal nod. Yes, I got it. We had a game where a very experienced scorebook person came up, reported the foul, went to my spot. Next foul should have been in the bonus, you know, based on what we thought was the seventh foul. Long story short, the scorekeeper, the book person, put the foul on the wrong team. If I were to look back at that and say, I probably should have paused, and I should have got a visual head nod saying, yep, I got you. I got what you got. It's in the book before I left. I left too early and didn't end up costing us because it was the next fall. We figured that out and we fixed it. But every single time you go to the table, make sure, and you can pause. I mean, we think pausing 2 or 3 seconds is an eternity, and it feels like it because when the whistle stopped and play stopped, you know, everybody's waiting for the ball to be put back in play. But don't let that roust you to hurrying yourself to making a mistake. So that's all I wanted to say is make sure you get visual confirmation from the scorebook and you've got eyes on them. And, you know, sometimes if it's a lower level contest, you may have to have another talking to, or perhaps even at worst case scenario, you know, have somebody else do the book. But by all means, make sure that you know the information is conveyed properly and accurately to the book before you move on. So that's all I wanted to say.
Hey, Tom and group, this is Kevin Krensky. I've got one question. I'd love to hear input from experienced veterans. The number one point of emphasis, coaches' conduct. What are you going to do differently in pregame, game management, or talking with the coaches to reinforce that? I'd love to hear some ideas and thoughts.
So when I talk with the coaches, one of the first things I bring up is I make sure they understand, hey, we're here to communicate to you the best we can in a timely fashion. There's going to be times where we're not in a position to be able to do that. What I ask of you is never, well, I don't say never, but I said, please talk in a manner like we're talking now. Don't yell at the court. Don't yell across the court. Don't yell at my partners. If that does happen, I stop play and I go over and talk to the coach. And if it warrants it, we issue a warning right away. And in regards to, someone made a comment a while back, and that was, you know, the basketball court is an extension of the classroom, and we expect you to act accordingly. I don't know if it was said exactly like that, but I think that was the point that was gotten across. So there are some things you can talk about, and you should talk about right away to, I wouldn't say set a precedence, but set an expectation, because the coach isn't going to expect me every time his player travels to look at him and say, why did your player travel? Or, you know, why did your player foul? Or why did they do this? Why did they do that? Well, by the same token, we don't expect the coach every time we make a call to be barking hysterically at us to say, you know, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? If they've got a question, we'll answer it when we can, and we'll move on. And if it continues to be a constant thing, maybe it'll be a talk to it, a timeout, you know, say, coach, you know, let's reset here. If you've got a legitimate issue about a call, I'd be more than happy to explain it to you, but I'm not going to entertain every single time you've got something that you feel is not right to stop play and answer your questions. So I don't know. That's my thought. Tom, how about you?
Sorry, I muted myself. I would concur. And again, I know I'm kind of taking the easy way out here and saying I agree with Tom, but I really do. I mean, we talked so much about conflict management and communication and Mark Ewell brings up verbal judo, and we go over it time and time and time again. And it seems like it's overkill, but I can tell you unequivocally that your ability to communicate with a coach in the course of a game, especially in those highly volatile moments, is the number one key to success as an official. Not necessarily because it's going to affect your rating, and a better rating is going to lead you to work at the Breslin or at Calvin College or whatever the case may be, or get to BJ and Jason's level. It's going to make your job easier overall as an official, no matter what level you work on. And that's why I push so hard to just knowing the definitions and knowing the intricacies, or not even the intricacies, but knowing the core of individual concepts, like legal guarding position, like block, what constitutes a block, what constitutes a charge, what constitutes palming or carrying, what constitutes backcourt, and then being able to explain that to a coach, not verbatim from the rule book, but just in a natural flowing conversation. That is really what separates, the high performing officials from the officials who just kind of say, well, that's the way it's going to be, coach, or that was what I saw, that's what I called. Because a coach is going to think to themselves, does this person standing in front of me officiating my game really know the rules? Because they just kind of pacified me. Now, again, we're not answering statements. We're only answering questions. But at the same time, when a question is presented to us in a calm and straightforward manner, we want to have the tools and the vocabulary to adequately answer those questions.
And to piggyback what you just said, Tom, is that knowing the rules is so critical, because if you make the statement by rule code such and such and such, you better be right. And one thing Brent has emphasized with us as officials is we don't have to give coaches warnings anymore. If there's something so egregious, in the non-negotiable line, the line in the sand has been crossed, we don't have to give a warning. If somebody says, for example, says, your partner really sucks tonight, or something derogatory to a partner, or something that's derogatory or defaming to one of yourself or your officials, at least that's an immediate technical foul, at least. And depending on the severity, if it's the F-bomb, or if it's something else that could warrant an immediate ejection, we don't have to warn them anymore. But it didn't give us that tool just to toss people at will. We still need to be able to take situations and see them for what they really are. Is the coach venting, or is the coach, just frustrated? A lot of times he's frustrated at his players. He just wants to vent. And unfortunately, as a younger official, it's going to take you probably a time or two to understand that and go through those fires, so to speak, to be more refined, to understand, okay, yeah, he was a little off the rail, but when more I thought about it, he was just venting because his team was playing horrible tonight. Tons of turnovers, missed free throws. He just wanted to, blow some steam off, and recognizing for what it is, but not allowing that to influence your decision to, okay, that was fine, but what you just said isn't. So you still have to have that line in the sand to say, when they cross it, you better be prepared to do what you need to do.
Any last minute thoughts, questions, comments? We've hit the 7:30 mark, so I do appreciate everyone being on the call today. Again, I've been recording this, so I will have this up on YouTube as soon as the video compresses and as soon as YouTube accepts my upload. But I want to thank Tom Behmlander for giving us 90 minutes of his time on top of all the time that he spent building out the presentation. One last reminder, if you haven't already done so, first and last name in the chat box to get credit for attending tonight's meeting. Lastly, Wednesday night, 6 p.m., Essexville Garber in the Tech Hall in person. We will have Q&A with the assigners, Q&A with a couple of college officials that work in our association. We're very much looking forward to both of those opportunities, and we hope everyone joins us on Wednesday night at Essexville Garber. Other
Hey,
than
Tom,
that,
quick question.
Yep,
Is
go ahead, John.
Wednesday the last one?
Wednesday is the last one. And yep, so that's your last chance to attend an in-person meeting.
And will that be on YouTube? Is there a way to, if you don't make it, to make up for that?
Yeah, so it just much like the meetings that we had at Western. So right now I've got the meetings on YouTube posted from Western, which was meeting 1, meeting 2, which was Standish, meeting 3, which was Freeland, and then we got Zoom bombed last Wednesday. So those three, the first 3 meetings are live on YouTube right now for people to get credit for. This one will go up there probably tomorrow at some point, and then I will be recording on Wednesday with a new software that will hopefully give us a little bit better production quality, but we will have that meeting online as well, probably Friday or by the weekend.
So just for clarification, we had a total of how many training meetings? 5 or 6?
So we will have had 5 actual training meetings. We also
had, is the number still 3 to attend to get the meeting in good standing?
Correct. So besides the 5 meetings, we also had the rookie meeting, which people could get credit for. We also had the mechanics walkthrough at the Dow Bay Area Family Y, which people can get credit for. This is new. This will be news to everyone. There is an opportunity if you do work the scrimmage at Dow High School on November 27th. We will give you credit for that. And then again, you also have the opportunity to go back and watch the videos for credit as well. So all in all, there is, and I'm going to re-record the meeting from last Wednesday. So there's going to be 9 opportunities to get 3 credits. So hopefully, everyone should have an opportunity to get the credits that they need.
And just one last question for clarification for everybody. When does that have to be completed by?
So we don't necessarily have to submit MIGs to the state until, well, I can't think of when the exact deadline is. I believe it's the first week of January, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, long story short is I am going to email out the deadline and have the deadline be, I have to look on my own calendar here, so bear with me.
I think that's a good idea, so at least everybody knows.
Yeah.
So I thought I had longer to do that.
Yep.
Hey, Tom, Dave Volk, do we have to sign up for that scrimmage? And what time is that?
So what you'll want to do, Dave, if you're interested in working the scrimmage, email either Jason Onjieski or Scott Helmka. Okay. If you're interested, and the only reason is because they are, from my knowledge, they are assigning that scrimmage through Arbiter because it's a paid scrimmage. So if you're interested, email Jason or Scott so that they can do what they need to do through Arbiter.
And what time does it start and end? You know?
It's like an all-day thing on Saturday, November 27th. So I believe it starts at 9 a.m. in the morning. And then goes through at least 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So you said email Scott.
Oh, this is Bruce Moss. My calendar shows December 15th as the MIGS deadline.
To submit to the state, Bruce?
That's what I have on my calendar.
Okay.
They must have $1,000 million on it, but that's what I have.
No, I think what happened, Bruce, is because of COVID last year, I had just extended it 1 year, and I think they had moved the MIGS deadline ahead because of COVID. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I guess my, for lack of a better term, my drop dead date for everyone to get credit for meetings attended was December 5th. So it's going to be Sunday, December 5th.
thanks, Bruce Moss. That's pretty good information to have.
Yes, thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Tom, where is it? Is it on the TCAOA website that we're finding the links for the individual meetings that are on YouTube?
So I've been sending out the YouTube, the individual links through Arbiter email.
Okay.
What I will do though is I'll work with Terry, who's our IT person, to get those links on the TCAOA website. But again, those links will just take you right to YouTube. The other thing you can do too, if you go to YouTube and just search TCAOA, it should take you to our channel, and that channel has or will have all of our videos once I get each of them uploaded. But right now there's 3 up there.
Okay, but if you do decide just to log into YouTube and look for TCAOA search, what about if you don't have an account?
You don't have to have an account to search YouTube, to get into YouTube, to watch videos on YouTube. You can just do a search for TCAOA. And again, actually, this is new. Must have happened in the last couple of days. All 3 of our videos, when you search for TCAOA, are right here on top. So you don't need any account. You don't need to sign into your Gmail. You don't need anything like that. All you do is click on a video and it will start playing.
Okay, Tom, thanks so much.
No problem. Anything else, guys? Kevin, did I answer? Kevin, hopefully you got the answer to your question about working at Dow. Thank you very much. Other than that, stay on for a couple minutes if anyone needs me, but if not, have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.